Hey, now last video I showed you a demo where I had mapped controls to a game in Unity, and it was primarily just buttons on the keyboard. Well, here this is my game I'm actually working on, Wing. I thought I'd show you that I have now extended that to also be controller inputs that are separate from the keyboard. I also have the axes of the controllers mapped to the movement in the game, which I didn't have in that previous demo. So I'll show you. I have this controls menu now, and you see there's only really two buttons to worry about in this game. There's a shoot button, there's a shield button. The shield button's a mechanic of the game that's unique to it as a shmup, which I'll explain at some point. But these are separate. If I try to remap this to a joystick button, it doesn't work. It only works if it's a keyboard, so I'll set that back to X. So I can set this to W, but I can't set it to like triangle on this PS4 controller. Doesn't work. But I can come down here, hit, I think it's mapped to square and make it X. Yeah. And I can, then that's R1. And this needs to, there's like a default setting in this that I need to change, but this is what it's actually at right now. But I can make it smaller, like that. And yeah. Just want to make sure that's still on screen, like that didn't fuck up the recording. And make it back to the original size. It's a little bigger. I can make it more dramatic. Like, do that's bigger. So in order to do all of this, I had to change stuff all around a little bit from that demo I made. I'll show you how I made those changes. The big thing here is that gamepads have something called axes. It'd be really nice if you could figure out, like, you could define in your game, like, hey, I don't know, maybe it'd just be nice if Unity just knew how to handle PS4 controllers better, but it doesn't. So what you have to do is I made a separate little Unity demo to figure out what all the axes are on all these different controllers. Like Unity will recognize like 20 something axes per gamepad, and I figured out that the left stick and the left stick on the PS4 controller and the left stick on the Xbox One controller are actually the same. They map exactly the same, and so that's at least one thing I don't have to do. But the other thing is because I've got this shmup game. Shmups are old school style games. People like using D-pads with those games, so I have to have some support for the D-pad, and the D-pads are very different. I figured out the D-pads for the Xbox One controller. I just had all this open. The vertical is the 7th axis, and the horizontal is the 6th. For the PS4, the vertical is the 8th, and the horizontal is the 7th. So if you ever played a game using a PS4 controller on the PC, where you're moving left and right and the thing's going up and down, you can't move it left and right. It's because it thinks it's an Xbox controller, and that's just how it all naturally maps out. So I made this like little extra thing called Axis Input, and when the game starts up, it will make the singleton and it will figure out if you have a controller plugged in at all, and if so, do you have an Xbox controller or do you have a PS4 controller? Really, what it figures out is if you have a PS4 controller. If you don't, it assumes you have an Xbox controller. If you've got some crazy off of eBay USB, GameCube thing that is not support, like no one you like not many people use, doesn't have a lot of circulation. I'm not handling that. I had a design in mind that might handle more universally, but that was a really complicated design. It would have taken me months, and there were all sorts of problems it could run into, and in code wise, and simpler designs are gonna have less bugs. They're gonna work a little better. So I decided to just accommodate for PS4 controllers because those are pretty common at this point. Even though most people have like wrappers, they have like the DS4 tool or whatever to just make your computer think you have an Xbox controller. But I decided I would try to do it natively. And so what you got here is on the construction of the singleton, it will find that joystick name. And if your joystick name is 19 characters long, it assumes that controller is a PS4 controller. And you're saying, why 19 characters? Let me remove this, unplug this. This is the PS4 controller. Plug it back in. And you see this joystick reconnected wireless controller. Wireless space controller is 19 characters. And that is the solution I read up online on like Unity answers. Like there's a Stack Overflow Unity equivalent that someone was talking about this with, uh, and then quickly both the X input controllers, the Xbox One and the Xbox 360 controller, they map exactly the same. So the D-pads are going to be the same. So I don't have to handle those individually because a lot of people actually have both, or they have one or the other. It's common to have one or the other. I'm lucky enough to have both, and I was able to make sure that this is all fine. So then once you've mapped those, in order to, instead of doing like your typical like input.getAxis horizontal, input.getAxis vertical, I have these public functions, get horizontal, get vertical, and through a series of checks to make sure do you have a controller, and is the keyboard input or I guess would be also the analog stick input from the controllers. If it's 0, it'll also try to find the input from the D-pad on whatever controller you have plugged in. You see here, it tries to get the standard horizontal, which again is already handled. Already handles both the arrow keys on the keyboard and the left joysticks of both of those controllers. And then you got like if your controller type, if that's 0, but you also have a controller plugged in, we also have to check on the D-pad, and then we get those, and that will return you then the output, like the access value of those, and then you can just use those wherever you have input dot get access, and it just works, which is great. So I will show you that real quickly. That's not what I want. I want fucking, come on. This is, it's not, let's just build the game again. Build settings, build. Yes, I want to replace. I had to make sure I turned all the volume down because else the game drowned me out. And the volume settings, I tried setting the volume settings in the player options, like the global settings for Unity to like 0.2 instead of 1. It sounded exactly the same. That's, maybe I'm doing something wrong. But here's the game, and I'm holding this PS4 controller, and I can hit options with the square, and I can come here and set this back to X and make this R1, and it works. And I have to set this, or else it'll. I have to fix that. I don't have to fix that. Now it's full screen. Now it's not full screen. Perfect. And I can start the game, main game, and let the controller setting does not let you map up, down, left, right. It just takes the D-pad, takes the analog stick, and assumes someone's on Steam. That's cool. That you've got what you wanted. And yeah, so I took a look at most shmups on, or just a lot of games on Steam that kind of release at the level that I'm releasing this game at. And actually, for a lot of games released at this level, don't let you map controls at all. So I guess I've got that. But most of them also don't let you map the inputs, like the directional inputs, because why would you want to map those differently? Honestly, I could see the argument for like, I would like my keyboard to be WASD, like WASD, but yeah, that's something you're not gonna be able to do, because I don't have a use case for that. I don't know how common that would be, that people would want to do that, if that's something that's like, if you're listening to this and be like, no, must be on WASD because that's how I play all my games. Then leave a comment. I'd actually like to hear some feedback about that. But yeah, this all works with the PS4 controller. I can get out of this. Quit. Oh, I also mapped the options button on the PS4 controller, and the one that looks like a bunch of vertical like the lines on the Xbox One controller. I don't know what that thing's called. I'm calling that the start button. Like automatically, you can't remap those either. I could have made those remappable, but like again, why would you want to change those? And that's also enter on the keyboard, not changeable. So I could do that, and then I could unplug this, And then here's an Xbox One controller I'm plugging in. It's gonna, yeah, it's X controller, Xbox One for Windows only. Open this up. Play. So now select as B, which is weird, but normal. That's just button 1 on this, so set that back to A. And then this is left bumper. Left bumper, right bumper, L1, R1 are also the same. Very interesting. Save and quit. Go back. Start. Main game. And yeah, this is an Xbox One controller, analog stick, D-pad, arrow keys on the keyboard. They all work. So now I've got fairly robust input controls for my game. So that's great. If you have any questions or like want more clarification on how to do this, it's not too hard once you figure out what you're trying to do. Like send me a message, send me a comment, however you want to get in contact with me. Thanks for watching.